Yeah. And that little church right there. It's a good church to go to. I enjoy going up there. And
Well, you've been in the Church of God a long time, haven't you?
yeah. Oh yeah. I was a coal miner. I was a coal miner, and my girl, Carolyn, she was, oh, 3 or 4, 5, 6 weeks old. And I decided to go down to the church just to pass time away.
Yeah.
And I went down to the church, got me a seat, about as far from the pulpit as the end of my walk is. And so when I was sitting there, there was a great big light come right down where I was sitting. It almost hit me.
Huh.
And I said, oh, God.
And it was God.
It was God. I said, I'll change my ways of living because my baby girl, my baby, I don't want anything to happen to my baby.
Right.
And so I changed. I started going to church right then.
Yeah.
Paying my tithes. They had a big board up on the wall over there of the people that paid tithes.
Yes, sir.
And they had my name on there, John McPherson. Someone was John McPherson, John McPherson, John Mc... And I was all the way down that list and the amount of tithes that I paid into the church.
Well, good for you. Well, you were a good member.
Yeah.
So that's when you got saved. When did you start preaching?
Well,
How did that come to
I
you?
played the guitar,
Yeah.
and I had a good little Martin guitar, and they wanted me to sing, play my guitar in church.
You could sing too, couldn't you?
And I sung and played my guitar in church.
Yeah.
And then the choir leader, Jim Richmond, said, let's gather so-and-so house, might have been his house or somebody's house, and sing some.
Yeah.
And I kind of believe the house was Ruby Campbell because she was a great alto singer, had an excellent voice. And so me and Jim Richmond and Ruby and Charles, who was that bass singer? We had a bass singer. And so we'd sing in this church. Then people would invite us to other churches to sing.
Yeah.
And me and Ruby and the bass singer, which I believe was Charles Burge, and we'd go to those places to sing and sort of build a reputation for us, you know.
Yeah.
And we couldn't fulfill all of the places where they wanted us to come sing.
Sure.
We couldn't, because old Charles sang that bass, and I played the guitar, and I had a little Martin guitar that I was passing a music store and saw a little guitar up there, and I looked and I said, boy, that's a pretty guitar. And I got real close to it, looked at it. It was a little Martin guitar, and the price was $100.
That was a pretty steep price back in those days.
That's a lot of money. And I said, I want that guitar. So I bought that guitar. I went in and talked to the fellow and told him how much money I'd give him down, and so much every payday, and got the little Martin guitar. Then Charles Burge and Jim Richmond and Ruby Campbell, myself, we had a quartet.
Yeah.
And we couldn't fulfill all of the places that wanted us to come to sing.
People wanted to hear you.
And we would go to a singing they had each month.
Yeah.
And we would sing there, and from that, they would ask us to come to other places. And we'd go to a lot of places, but couldn't fulfill all of them.
Right.
And we did that for years. And then I took my wife out, and we'd have street meetings. And I went to a little place, Jonesville, Virginia, about 30 miles away, and had a good little place where I could sing on the street there. And then it went into a building. They wanted us to come over and sing in the building. And so we did that. And so then that's when we organized a church in that little city. And and we would sing at conventions, you know.
Yeah.
Conventions and camp meetings. Camp meetings that the crowd sang with people, a lot of people to far from me in that house.
Yeah.
The house was full again. And we'd sing, and so we built ourselves up pretty good. And I enjoyed that. Yeah.
What time?
We'd go to a singing convention they had every month, and when we go there was people there that wanted us to come to their church.
Yeah.
And we'd go to a lot of churches in between times about my
Sure.
church.
So when did you start preaching? When you formed this little church?
Yeah, right along in there is they wanted me to read a scripture.
Yeah.
And say something, and I did that, and an old country lady come up to me and said, "You know, that's the best preaching that we've had in this church," and that caused me to want to do it some more, and we did it pretty good, and ended up having a church in Roseville, Virginia, and that's a good church right now, and has been for years. And it's the reason for our singing and our quartet.
Yeah.
So it went out from that.
All started then in
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah.
And
Roseville, Virginia.
And you were a coal miner
Yeah.
at that time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I coal mine, ran a machine, and had, if the entry was 21 feet wide, I have one man with me. If it was 40 feet wide, I'd have 2 and 3 men with me.
Yeah.
And they would give me a choice of who I wanted with me. And
You were a good miner then.
yeah, I ran the machine and cut a lot of coal. And the superintendent even come up in my place and watched us watch me sump that machine. It was against the rules to sump the machine in fast feed, but I learned how. I hustled over to Earl Tackey. Then when Earl was off, I would run his machine,
Yeah.
but I would sump in fast feed. And I learned how to control that big cutting machine, something in fast feed. I learned how to do that. I had 2 ropes, and the one rope I kept it real tight, so if you hit a hard place, it wouldn't kick out on us.
Right.
And so
People don't have those kinds of skills anymore, do they?
I doubt it, because you don't have the coal mines anymore.
No, not
Back
like
in
that.
that day, coal mines was very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how people made their living back in
Yeah.
Virginia in those days, didn't they?
And I think it scattered quite a bit about the way I ran that machine, something in fast feed. And then I'd have fellas to come up in there and watch me do it.
Yeah.
And I could do it with all ease. I knew how.
Knew how.
Yeah.
Did you teach them?
The big old cutting bar.
Yeah.
The The cutting bar was about as far as you see that post there?
Yeah.
That last post?
Yeah.
That cutting bar was farther than this post to that post.
Wow.
It was awful long. And but had a lot of bits on it, and that machine was about that bar was about that high, and about this wide, something like that. And I sunk and cut that coal, and I knew how it was. I learned how my own self. When I worked with Earl Tackett, he was one of the greatest coal miners in that mines, but he couldn't something fast feed. But when Earl was off and I'd run his machine, I'd something fast feed.
Mm-hmm.
The machine had two ropes to it. Had a little fast feed rope and had a big rope that was different. So, but I had a control that I could for each one, and I'd sump that machine and real slow. When I got it up in there, then I'd take the jacks down and reset them and cut across that coal. And I cut an awful lot of coal. I was the only coal miner that in that coal mines that could do that.
Yeah.
Then that's why the superintendent and other people would come up in there.
Come up there and watch it.
Watch me sump that machine.
Mm-mm.
I could do it. I could do it just as easy as you go and get in your car and drive away.
Yeah.
And so there's something.
Well, what made you give it up?
They wanted me to pastor a church, and the pastor of the church was too far away for me to pastor that church that far
And coal mine too.
So I just quit the coal mining, went pastor the church. They didn't pay me much, but I got people saved.
Yeah.
A lot of people saved.
You glad you did it?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I had some reputation.
Well, did you miss coal mining?
Huh?
Did you miss coal mining?
Yeah, well, the way it all happened and the way I was going to church, singing in the quartet and playing my guitar, it made me I felt bad and I felt good about the marriage, see.
Yeah.
So I just did that until they wanted me to pastor a little church in Rose Hill. But the church was in an old store building, but it was a good place for a church. And plenty of parking room and all that. And upstairs, there was a living quarters where me and my wife and baby would live.
Yeah.
And so we were right there at it. And so then my name kind of spread till the business people in that town, when I go into the store,
Yeah.
they'd want to talk to me, and they were complimentary. And that helped the Church of God.
Yeah. Helped the church, didn't it?
Like in Rose Hill, Virginia, they had a Baptist church, but they didn't have a church like mine.
Right.
And when people would come to my church for little reasons, they'd come to my church instead of going to that Baptist church.
Sure.
Several of them did that. They liked singing and music and the way it all happened. Wish we had good church services. Yeah. And I did that until they wanted me to go out in the evangelistic work and I did that in Virginia. So they would give me so many churches to go to, and
You do revivals?
yeah.
What's the key to a good revival?
Well, you got to let God have His way.
Do you?
And I learned how to do that. There's some things that God wants a preacher to do that the fellas don't want to do it because of the bad name it had. But I got along good with that fast feed something and cutting and all that.
Yeah.
And get my name up. Therefore, I must have been pretty good because the superintendent didn't go up in the mines, but the superintendent would come up in my place.
Yeah.
He's 21 foot wide, and the superintendent would come up there, and watch me sump that machine.
Yeah.
And I sumped it as though there was nobody around.
Well, what was the key to it? Did you do it?
Well, that machine had two ropes, had a fast feed and slow feed. And a machine will kick out and kill preachers. I mean, kill people.
Yeah.
You had to know how to control that machine with certain pressures on those ropes. And when there was something, you something in fast feed, and it's going real fast, but you had to have something. So I knew where to set those jacks, and then I'd tell my hostler how to do it, and we did it like that. Coal mine a long time. Then they wanted to give me a church way off, and I couldn't pastor that church and work too. So I talked with them about it, and they agreed with me.
They agreed.
Yeah.
People don't want a coal mine.
No,
You know?
that's right.
People don't want to work that hard, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, in fact, my brother, James, next to me, 2 or 3 years younger than me,
Yeah.
we were coming out of the mines one day. And walking along, and Carrie, it says, if this is all there is for me, he made some kind of remark, bad remark. And I said, whoa, no, I said, don't do that. I said, just do so and so and so and so and let it go. And he said, well, that's what I'll have to do, I reckon. So, he's my brother, about 2 years younger than me, and he wasn't liking that coal mines. And I talked him into staying. He stayed, and finally, one of our nephews sold insurance in Baltimore, and he was a superintendent, and he offered Carrie a job if he'd come.
There's Carrie.
He offered